Toys of children, prisoners of the Nazi death camp Majdanek, discovered after liberation by Soviet soldiers, 1944. Children build an improvised Berlin Wall, West Berlin, October 1961. March on Washington, 1963. During this event, Martin Luther King delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. As a result of the march, the U.S. government abolished segregation and granted African Americans equal voting rights as whites. A procedure for removing freckles using dry ice, 1930s. Beauty treatments of the past were often painful and unsafe. Koreans defend their stores during the Los Angeles riots, 1992. A man guards his family from cannibals, the Great Famine, 1876, British India. Fish sale, halibut catch, Netherlands, 1913. The oldest advertisement for escort services. These are the sandals of ancient Greek prostitutes with a mirrored inscription, "Follow me." The imprint of the inscription was left on the ground, thus advertising their services. A girl crossing the border between East and West Berlin. She made it and survived, but not everyone was so lucky. Many were shot. Later, a 4-meter-high brick Berlin Wall would be built along this drawn line. Japan, 13th thus 18th century. It was easy to tell if a woman was married or not in Japan for 5 centuries. The family status was revealed by her smile. Right after marriage, Japanese women began painting their teeth black. Prisoners in stocks and an executioner with a knife, 1899, Persia. Adolf Hitler signs an autograph for a Catholic nun, 1932. A dancer. Behind her, an atomic explosion, Nevada, 1950. A couple who moved to a white neighborhood, looking at the graffiti in front of their house, Chicago, 1957. The hairstyle of this Victorian fashionista is adorned with a taxidermy cat, and the bodice of her dress is decorated with real cat tails, 1883. This is Teresa Adwentowska from Warsaw, severely traumatized by the war. In 1948, in a residence for disturbed children, she drew "home" on the blackboard. 19-year-old Shigeki Tanaka survived the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and later won the 1951 Boston Marathon. The crowd at the finish line was silent. Hitler declares war on the USA December 11, 1941. Drinking fountains for blacks and whites, USA, 1956. In 1948, a local tribal chief in North Dakota weeps as he is forced to sign a treaty handing over fertile land in the Missouri River Flats, his tribe's homeland, under the threat of his people's destruction. The ambiguous pose of a Pompeian man who died as a result of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius on August 24, 79 AD. British and Italian forces clashed in Egypt during WW2 1940. The Italians won this battle, stabilizing the front for 3 months. 1950s poster advertising tours to watch nuclear tests near Las Vegas, Nevada. The Los Angeles riots. Hundreds of stores and homes looted. A mother teaches her children. Louisiana, USA, 1937. Friedrich Nietzsche in a psychiatric hospital, 1899. School bus, 1930s, USA. School for black civil rights activists. A girl is trained to remain calm while having her hair pulled and cigarette smoke blown in her face. USA, 1960. In the 19th century, atheist George Hall had a debate with a believer about whether giants once roamed the earth. Believing that people would believe anything written in the Bible, Hall carved a statue of a giant man, made it look petrified, and buried it in the ground in Cardiff, New York. He waited more than a year before digging up the Cardiff Giant, charging people to come see it. By the time he was exposed, he had made nearly $500,000. Black men arrested for lack of housing and employment will be used as free labor. Slavery, though abolished by law, simply took on other forms. USA, 1910. Samsung office trading fruits and fish, Korea, 1938. This was the beginning of the Samsung Empire. Lab technician in a plastic suit selecting a rat for experiments in an Indiana lab, USA, 1949. Lumberjacks posing on a giant stump of a sequoia known as Mark Twain in California, USA, 1891. A 6-month-old winner of the Most Beautiful Child of America contest in 1927, Marcia Pinkelfield. The shoes of South Vietnamese army soldiers who discarded their military uniforms to hide their status litter a road on the outskirts of Saigon, 1975. US, 1951, Prettiest Legs Contest. Women wore pillowcases over their heads to keep the focus on their legs. Lava flows engulfing a village west of Vesuvius, 1944. The audience at a session of hypnotist Anatoly Kashpirovsky for obesity treatment, Russia, 1989. The 1960s became the era of the miniskirt. However, women had to fight for the right to wear them. Fake heads used during the famous escape from Alcatraz in 1962 were made from wax and left in beds so that the guards wouldn't notice their absence. 3 prisoners escaped the island on a homemade raft. They were never found, and it is believed they likely drowned in the waters of San Francisco Bay. 1753, Russian physicist Georg Wilhelm Richmann was killed testing atmospheric electricity. He accidentally created ball lightning that struck his forehead. Yugoslavia's air defense forces shoot at NATO aircraft. Belgrade, 1999. Cedar Log Lumberyard in Seattle, 1939. French resistance members in Cherbourg shaving the heads of women who collaborated with the Nazis, World War II. German children destroying Nazi literature and swastikas in Cologne, 1945. Coffin beds in a Salvation Army shelter in London. This is one of the first shelters for the homeless around 1900. A herd of elephants before mass extermination truly meant a herd. Photo taken in 1976 in Africa. Lunch break during the filming of Star Wars. In the 19th century in England, there was a man with a second face on the back of his head. Edward was an heir to the English peerage in the 19th century. He had an additional face at the back of his head that could not eat or speak, but was capable of laughing and crying. Princess Diana in her car shortly before the fatal crash. An American soldier poses in front of burning oil. Gulf War, 1991. In 1935, 6-month-old Hesse Taft was chosen as the ideal Aryan baby by the Nazi magazine Sonn ins Haus. The only problem was she was Jewish. Martin Luther King Jr. and his son removing a burned cross from their yard, 1960. Not long ago, believing in their superiority, exclusivity, special path, and invincibility, the Germans plant vegetables in front of the Reichstag building in hungry, war-torn Berlin, 1946. In 1961, the U.S. Air Force accidentally dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Goldsboro, North Carolina. One bomb nearly detonated, which could have caused an explosion 260 times more powerful than Hiroshima. It used to be easy to buy things now banned by law. The photo shows women buying cocaine on the streets of Berlin, Germany, 1929. "Bombing for peace is like having sex for virginity," a famous slogan used by hippies during protests against the Vietnam War in the 1960s. Jews arrested after Kristallnacht brought to Buchenwald, November 1938. A Christmas party in Badagry, Nigeria. Jubilee visitor at an American POW camp, April 20, 1945. This 1910 service vehicle was a revolutionary breakthrough for U.S. city infrastructure, replacing simple carts and ladders for maintaining streetlights. Japanese pilot Yamamura is the only kamikaze to escape death 3 times. First, he was shot down but saved by fishermen. Then the mission was canceled by bad weather, and a 3rd time he was forced to return by technical malfunctions. Leaders of the countries participating in World War II as children. The Shanghai waterfront is filled with evacuation boats after the communist victory in China, 1946. English model Jean Shrimpton was one of the first to dare appear in public in a dress above the knee. In the summer of 1965, she arrived at the Melbourne races in such an outfit, causing a true sensation. James Robert Rinrose was on the FBI's most wanted criminals list. When FBI agents arrested him, he told them he had prepared for the arrest, as he had been carrying the essentials for years, and handed them a free jail release card from the board game Monopoly. North Koreans running in tears at the funeral of their leader, Kim Jong-il, December 17, 2011. Joe Arity, a 23-year-old mentally disabled man with an IQ of 46, doctors called him an imbecile, was executed for murder. Police forced him to give a false confession. Doctors perform artificial respiration on a drowning victim while a woman in a swimsuit poses. New York, 1940. Louise Bundy, mother of serial killer Ted Bundy, talks to him on the phone minutes before his execution. "You will always be my precious son." A mother is always a mother. Under the supervision of Turkish army officers, Kurdish children write on a blackboard. How happy is he who calls himself a Turk? David Dellinger and Jerry Rubin nominate a pig for the position of president in Grant Park, Chicago, USA, 1968. Blackface by Eva Braun, wife of Adolf Hitler, 1937. French cavalry on their way to the front, 1914. This image marks the sunset of the cavalry era as World War I introduced modern mechanized warfare. Preparing a slave for sale, USA, 19th century. A woman on the right is presenting a plastic protective bra for women working in munitions factories, USA, 1943. It was believed that it protected against radiation and other harmful substances. 5-year-old Warren runs away from his mother to his father, Private Jack Bernard, shouting, "Wait for me, Dad," during the British Columbia Regiment March, October 1st, 1940. Circus elephant from the Amar brothers plowing land in occupied France, 1941. One of Hitler's doubles was his chauffeur. In the photograph, he is to the left of Hitler. The driver often substituted for Hitler at various events. Mass burning of the Parangi, Veil, Andijan, Uzbekistan, 1927. An American certificate for aiding starving children in the Soviet Union. The owner of this certificate has fed one hungry orphan. USA, 1923. In 1939, mills in the United States began shipping flour in colorful sacks. This was done so that the poor could later sew clothes from the sackcloth. During World War II, the Soviet Army trained suicide dogs to destroy enemy tanks. Starving dogs were taught that food could be found under a mock-up of a combat vehicle. In 1923, an American inventor named Murphy struggled to sell the police the bulletproof vest he had designed. Officers were skeptical that a mere contraption could stop a bullet and refused to purchase his product. The stubborn Murphy finally put the vest on himself and stood facing the sheriff. International Women's Day was born as a day representing women's fight for their rights in a man's world. The first declarations of women's rights appeared in the 18th century. In the 19th century, women gained more rights, but were still considered property of men. By the early 20th century, women were already holding rallies for equality and soon proposed the establishment of a unified International Women's Day. Halloween at an American school, 1980s. Luftwaffe pilots at the ritual of welcoming new pilots into their ranks, 1942. The meaning of the ritual was to burn away their fear. An unusual place for strollers in the front of a bus, New Zealand, 1950. The world's first photograph, which is also the first photograph taken during wartime, the Crimean War, 1853. Officers of the Titanic before its departure, 1912. A slave in restraints designed to prevent escape. The collar prevented the slave from squeezing through narrow openings, such as a window. Jewish children in Auschwitz hold hands as they walk to the gas chamber, unaware of their fate. German soldiers greet Soviet tanks with flowers. Poland, September 1939. Marilyn Lovell, wife of Apollo 13 commander, reads front page news, 1970. A segregationist rally in the U.S., 1961. The crowd chants slogans claiming that racial integration is a form of communism. Alcatraz prison, where the most dangerous American criminals were held, operated until 1963 and was the only federal prison at the time where inmates had access to warm showers. The administration decided that prisoners accustomed to comfort would be less likely to attempt to escape by swimming across the cold San Francisco Bay. Survivors from the British steamship Titanic disembarking onto the Carpathia, 1912. Saving Private Donkey. A French Legion soldier during the Algerian War carries a wounded donkey back to base, 1958. The donkey survived and became the base's mascot, named Bambi. An experiment to train students under hypnosis. The students are in a trance and listen to a lesson recording through headphones. Italy, 1963. Only 3 people in the USA were qualified to manually pack parachutes for Apollo 15. Their experience was so important that they were not allowed to travel together in one car out of fear that a car accident could jeopardize the entire space program. Whether you felt happy, annoyed, or just entertained, drop a comment and tell me why. Keep an eye out for the sequel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See ya.